The number one response to my videos about the cell phones blowing up, the pagers blowing up, Baofeng radios blowing up, home security systems blowing up, everything that's blowing up in Lebanon right now is, well, it's got to have a small explosive device planted in it. Makes sense, right? You know, they can superheat the battery or something like that and it'll catch on fire, but there's something in it causing it to explode, right? Well, ask yourself, where does these devices come from? China, Taiwan, that area, right? They're getting shipped to Lebanon. So somebody's intercepting them before they get there and they're planting these devices in them, or they're being planted in China or Taiwan where the devices are made, where the stuff's made, right? Ask yourself this. Could that stuff already be in our phones? Could it already be in our laptops, in our smartwatches, in our security systems, anything with a chip and a battery that comes from China and Taiwan? Could it already be in those systems? What's preventing them from doing that here at any moment, right? Some people will say, well, they're going after terrorists. Okay. You don't think somebody can get their hands on that and just start doing it everywhere? You got to think it's election year, right? You got to think outside the box here. I know tinfoil hat theory. You know, let's go down the rabbit hole. Think outside the box. They want mail-in voting, right? Get mail-in voting. Well, your cell phone start exploding. Well, you might want to stay at home, right? Because something's coming. I know that's way off down in the rabbit hole. But you've got to ask yourself, number one, how long have they had this capability to blow up stuff like this? You know, you got to stop and think. Smartphones have not been out that long. If you're like me, you grew up in the 90s, right when cell phones started coming on. Of course, they were around in the 80s, but they really started coming on the tail end of the 90s and the early 2000s. As far as I know, these phones aren't made in America, right? They're made in China, Taiwan, somewhere like that, Vietnam, Thailand, or somewhere, right? All we keep hearing about on the news is how microchips are chips are chips. That's why you couldn't buy a truck, right? Because or a vehicle back during the pandemics because Taiwan and all them and China couldn't get the chips made. And now we're having issues with malware in these chips exploding people's phones or any device, right? That's got a chip in it. This is getting into some sketchy stuff. Like you're sitting there, this stuff you might read in a book, right? Like a you ever seen the movie Dragon Day? That movie's all about the Chinese chips, right? That's how China invades the United States and takes it over. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend watching Dragon Day. It's not the best acting, but with what's going on now with these chips, you might be interested in that movie. But guys, there's something. Why do you think it's only going to happen there in the Middle East? If you're one of these people that think, it's just happening over in Lebanon, what is preventing that from already being in our phones? Seriously, what's preventing it? If it's not an explosive device, if it's something that they're able to do inside the phone to make it physically explode, right? Or inside your Baofeng radio or your walkie-talkies, anything with a chip and a battery, your vehicle, right? This is getting into some stuff you would read about in a sci-fi novel or something, but it's actually happening right now. How can we prevent this from happening to us? There's no way to prevent it. Get rid of your phone. You can't do that. Why? What have I always said? Most of your stuff nowadays is on these phones. That's how you pay your bills. That's how you get paid. It's all on the internet, right? And when I say phones, I mean laptops and everything. You understand what I'm saying? But most people access the internet through their phone and they use it for everything, to pay their bills, to check their bank receipts, to do their banking and all that. Well, a system crash, right? All that stuff's gone. You ain't got no access to your money. You can't even clock in at work, probably. I wouldn't never believe this stuff would happen in my lifetime. But if we kept hearing about cyber attacks, people forget that almost 2 years ago, Biden come on and said we need to be more worried about cyber attacks. It was around this time of year, a little bit before when he said it. And people just kind of, whatever, and go on about it, right? But now look what's happening. You can't tell me that the government don't know about this stuff. Like it's news to them that this stuff is just, oh God, who invented that? When did that? Bull. They've known it. We've probably had it in our own stuff. So it's getting to the point where I tell you to keep your head on a swivel all the time when you go outside your house, but now you got to keep your head on a swivel inside your house for your electronic devices explode. Now, it's not happened here in the United States, nothing like that, but you've got to ask yourself, seriously sit down and think, If this is happening over there, what is preventing it from happening here? If a terrorist group gets a hold of this technology, or if they already have it, what is preventing it from going on here? Is it already here? Is it in our phones right now? Is our phones a ticking time bomb? They could be. Now, I do not recommend you tear into your phone. Number one, if there is a device in it, you dang sure don't want to be messing with it if you don't know what you're doing. Number two, most people are just going to go on about their day. If it happens, it happens, right? But this is getting into some crazy stuff. Some guy commented 007 movies, Mission Impossible stuff. That's where we're getting right now. What's going to prevent this? Is it already here in our electronics? That's what you've got to ask yourself. It could be. All your business information, everybody's scared to death. They're going to steal your social security card. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're going to steal your social security number, your banking information. You know, people are a little worried about that, so they try to prevent it online. Now you got to sit and worry about a virus being in your phone that can blow your phone up or your radio. You know, a lot of people use the Baofeng radio. Everybody talks junk about it, but it's probably one of the #1 selling radios in America, but due to the price, and it works, right? It works decently. The one I have, you put a little longer antenna on it, you can get out there pretty good with it. So, I mean, you look around your house at your electronics. Do you believe anything in that house with electronics doesn't have a chip from China or Taiwan or somewhere in it like that? I'm pretty sure it does. Let me know your thoughts on this, especially the ones that keep telling me, oh, it's got to have an explosive device in it. Okay, where is that getting intercepted and put in these? Who is intercepting them and putting them in these? Or are they being made in the factory with it already in it? Because if they are, those devices are coming from China and Taiwan area. Yeah. You think Lebanon's producing their own cell phones and stuff? Nope. They're coming from over there in Southeast Asia. So you either got to say, well, it's being put in them there, or it's being intercepted before it gets to them and being put in it then. And who's picking who gets what device, right? Well, if they're only targeting terrorists, okay, that makes sense. Let's just say that makes 100%. You know, that's common sense right there. How do you know that's going to be a terrorist with that device? How do you not know it's going to be some little school-age kid, you know, that's doing something on the phone or talking to their grandma, right? They haven't seen their grandma in a year and they're talking to their grandma. This is getting into some stuff where we really have to be watching. I won't be surprised in a couple of weeks or months there'll be some kind of thing that this will keep happening, and there'll be somewhere you can take your phone and have it scanned to see if it's got a certain chip in it or a certain thing in it. Let's see if I'm right on that. If you're still here at the 8-minute mark, make a note that I said that within a couple of weeks or months, there may be a thing here in the United States where you can physically take your phone and have it checked to see if it's got a chip from that area in it. You know, a certain lot or batch in it. Let's see. I may be wrong, but most of you ain't still here at 8 minutes. But if you are, just write it down and we'll come back, you know, first of the year and see if I'm right. Guys, keep your head on swivel. Be aware of your surroundings at all times. Protect yourself and your family at all times. At that moment, you're the only person who can do it. Stay safe. Keep prepping. I don't know what to tell you about these cell phones. You know, I don't know. A Faraday cage, put it in it. Then if it explodes, you're making a bigger shrapnel pile, right? And some people say, well, no, Faraday cage will contain. I don't know. But we got to keep an eye on this one. Stay safe. Keep prepping.